My name's Bethan Wynne Jones. I work for the Snowdonia National Park Authority as their local nature partnership coordinator and biodiversity officer. The main part of my role is to connect people and nature and to offer educational days for visitors and local people alike.
I'm Harvey and I'm the Peatland officer at Snowdonia National Park Authority, and my main role is to restore our peatlands and everything that comes with that. So there's some public outreach as well, and monitoring, surveying, mapping, just seeing what we've got there and restoring it.
We're here today in a place called Peatlands, which is in the Snowdonia National Park, or Eryri as it is known in Welsh. We've decided to come here to show and talk to you a little bit more about what we do as a National Park Authority in terms of mitigating climate change and contributing to biodiversity gain. And we're very close to a site, a peatland restoration site, which we've been working on for the past 15 years. So it's part of our statutory duty as a national park or a public national park authority to protect, enhance and conserve the special qualities within Snowdonia or within Eryri. These are things like the landscape, biodiversity, but also things like the Welsh language as well. So we do quite a bit of things to obviously contribute to that. Some large-scale projects, for example peatland restoration. There's a big project at the minute called the Celtic Rainforest Project, which is eradicating invasive species across the national park as well. But we also contribute to smaller projects. The national park has its own carbon emission reduction goals, and in order to contribute to that, there have been some changes. For example, changing vehicles to electric vehicles. They're doing some greening work or contributing trees and bird boxes, bat boxes to car parks and sites across Eryri. They're also on our main HQ or headquarter building down in Penrhydeudraeth. They've recently replaced the windows to triple glazing to maximise energy efficiency as well. So there's lots of little things that we're contributing.
There's a really important cultural link between people and the land in Snowdonia. It's not just a beautiful landscape. You see people live and work here, and that cultural link has gone back hundreds and hundreds of years. We work with the landowners, with stakeholders, with the local farmers, and we certainly do that with the peatlands. So we're going to take a closer look at a peatland just over there to see what was done about 5 years ago and what we plan to do this year as well. This is a site called Cosgoch, and this is one of our valley peatlands. So peatlands are meant to be wet, they're meant to be really squishy areas. They're home to unique plants and animals as well, and one of these plants is the Sphagnum Moss. And this is the peat builder.
Where you find that you're likely to get a wet foot any second.
It's really wet.
This is the peat.
It holds 3 times its weight in water?
Yeah. I think more than that, So you can see that was the sphagnum which started there, you can see. So it doesn't decompose, or it partially decomposes into this stuff. So all the carbon in this, usually, say in a garden, it would get released. If this was a piece of grass in your garden, it would just decompose and it would be released into the air. But when this dies or decomposes or starts to partially decompose, it just forms this stuff, which is peat. And then the deeper you go, the darker it should go, and you can hear it squelching. This is going to be deeper. There we go. And then you can see this is how much was it when we measured it? How was it? 4 meters?
Over there it was 4 meters, yeah.
So it goes down. This stuff goes down about 4 meters underground.
Because it's only partially degraded, that's where the carbon is locked away. And peatlands are our biggest carbon store. So it's a really important carbon store that we're trying to protect. Just to give you an example, in Snowdonia we've got about 12% of our land cover is covered by peat. It isn't a lot, but it's quite a bit. But that peat holds 52% of our soil carbon. So it holds a lot more carbon than all of the soils in the area. So it's a huge amount of carbon that we're trying to protect. When they're in a natural state, they are very small carbon sinks. Because they're waterlogged, they actually produce quite a lot of methane, so it balances out as a roughly carbon neutral, a slight carbon sink. When they're damaged, like 75% of our peatlands across Wales are, then they are dried out and suddenly all of that carbon is released. So they're actually a big source of greenhouse gases. So by restoring them, we're actually putting a cap on that emission and trying to save carbon that way. It's called avoided loss rather than carbon capture. Just in the last couple of years, we've been working on around 1,000 hectares already, and we've got a lot of sites on the list. For example, this is one we're going to be doing this year again, and there's some others just nearby on the other side of the lake over there that we'll be looking at this year. As soon as you go in there with a digger and you start blocking up some of the ditches and covering up the bare peat, it starts re-wetting quite quickly, and we've already seen on some of our restored sites that the biodiversity has increased. We're getting a lot more birds up there, with like snipe and curlew are starting to come back a bit. Loads of dragonflies, loads of amphibians, all the frogs up there, and also the plants are starting to come back. So we're actually seeing quite an immediate response. Obviously with peatland, the main fact is the carbon. So we say a peatland is probably fully restored after about 30 years. It does take quite a while for it to fully restore. So it's a long way yet, but certainly even after a year there's big benefits.
So the National Park Authority this year will be celebrating its 70th birthday, and I don't think it would look as beautiful as it is today. Well, I know for a fact it wouldn't look like it is today if the National Park Authority didn't exist. So what we're doing is making sure that this area, Eryri, continues to be a beautiful place to live and visit and work in for generations to come.